Hi, y'all. It's Bridget Cutshaw with Real Things Living. Today, my guest is Shirley Raines. She was the first woman university president. She was the president of University of Memphis. Shirley, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I was for 12 years president of the University of Memphis. A wonderful job, great challenge, but eventually after 12 years, it's time to do something else. So now I'm a speaker and writer and continue to mentor women in leadership roles.
I think that's great and it's real important. I believe, I see you as someone who created the path for other women, right? Because you were the first woman as a university president, and it gives women more confidence, I think, and it's helpful.
Well, I hope so. That's my desire. In fact, I'm considering starting a new series called Say Yes to Leadership.
Oh, wow.
In fact, I'm on my new website that you'll see soon. It will start with Say Yes to Leadership, because that's really what I'm trying to do now, is motivate people to become leaders and those who are already leaders to enjoy their leadership roles.
Right. And especially that's important, what we have going on. Everybody's afraid
Yes.
with this COVID. And I don't want to go off tangent here, but it is important to have the proper leadership for these kind of unknown, I shouldn't say realms, but we just don't know. Every industry's hit in different manners. Some are doing okay, like tech people, but some are not. And I think we have to be. I think the last time we talked, we have to be open to possibilities, right? And I think a leader can pave the way, or just be an example. You're not really. You don't have to listen to but what you do is important, right? As an example.
Well, not everyone's going to become a university president.
Right, right.
There are many opportunities for leadership, and that's what my goal is, to have people become open to the opportunities. I can tell you a story from quite a while ago, but I was asked to be a department chair 3 different times in 3 different locations, and I took the job each time because it opened other doors. But I waited to be tapped, to have some big administrator from on high to say, you'd be good at this. Finally, I applied and said, you know, people think I do a good job at this. I'd like to apply for that role. So I think I don't want to overgeneralize about women, but sometimes we wait to be tapped for opportunities that lie before us, and we need to apply.
Correct.
In
Right. You have
this,
to be put out there, get over that fear. Right. So
yes.
I'm guilty of having some fear sometimes. I think that's just normal for everybody, but you just have to step forward and like this podcast. I started it because I was a guest on some other podcasts. I'm like, I like doing this. I like talking to people. I'm learning more, and I'm making those connections, other connections I never would have had prior, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, and I admire you for doing the podcast. I've been interviewed on several, but I like your approach of us having a real dialogue rather than this is the set of questions, because then you
Right,
can follow a lead, or I can try to follow
right,
follow as well.
right. And you want to make it more it's more authentic, and it is about why it's real things living. That's what real life is about. It's not always you have to have a plan and a strategy sometimes, but most times it goes off, and so you have to be
Well, nothing in my experiences led me to become a university president. I never would have imagined it. So step by step, your journey takes you different places by choices you make.
right.
And for me, I try to encourage women to make choices and take advantage of opportunities. And if they're not any apparent to them, talk to somebody and try to figure out either in the large company or in your community or in whatever the organization, your professional organization, find a way to choose an opportunity because opportunities exist.
They do, and you have to be open to stepping out of your comfort zone too. I mean, that's kind of like you said. You started off as in teaching as a preschool teacher, right?
Absolutely.
That was quite the.
No one ever envisioned preschool teacher and university president together. I'm told I'm the only one in America. However, I haven't verified that. So
Right.
that's just what the publicists get to say, but I believe it to be true. I haven't found any others. But it was a journey. Um, the path that's laid out before us may be quite different than the one we envisioned for ourselves. But
That's true. That's
thankfully, doors opened and I stepped forward, sometimes quite reluctantly, sometimes quite often quite fearfully, but with with a sense of confidence that goes with you've done your previous job well, so why not tackle the next one? It's not as if you're bound by what the horizons are for the past job.
well, you can also apply a different perspective too, right? And I think that's how we learn from each other, being open to that. And I'm sure your new role, you saw opportunities to adjust and fix. I shouldn't say fix things, but things can always be made a little bit better. I think a little bit,
Absolutely.
right?
And the
And
first
it,
step in making things better is choosing your team. If you're fortunate to be a part of a company where you get to choose your team, or a university where you choose your team, or when you're in a professional organization and they're building a slate, or there are times you can get the right people on board with you. And I think that's one of the secrets. And then enjoy them, enjoy being a part of the team and leading the team.
right. And I get so much. One thing that's bad about this COVID thing, I get a lot of energy being around people.
Yes.
And Zoom meetings are helpful, but it's just still not 100% the same.
No, it isn't.
But at least we can see each other's faces, and it is something I'm glad I discovered. You know, having a Zoom call. I think I discovered it like 5 years ago, and I just jumped in and doing I guess a class with some other people I didn't know, and we had these projects we worked on together, and
Wow, that's a good idea.
right, and it was just we inspired each other and motivated each other, and then we just had these different ideas, and that provided a lot of inspiration to keep moving forward. And you have to, I think, find ways to inspire yourself, if that makes sense. And
Well,
I
it does make sense. Staying motivated is a difficult task at whatever role you're doing, and especially in isolation.
yes, I really feel for the parents who are working and their kids. Every school district is different. My sister is a seventh grade teacher, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to be doing. The kids are going to have to be at home, but she can have the opportunity to go into the building. So that's a different task. You know, I just feel sorry for the parents. I don't have young kids, you know, mine are adults now, but the whole thing is I have a lot of empathy for them. And you probably definitely do because you were in that environment, teaching
I
environment.
do, and because my daughter-in-law is a teacher, a first grade teacher.
Oh wow, that
And
that's really so hard because I just,
yes,
you know, I don't know what to say, but it's still we don't know what's going to happen long term. But I try to look at you know, being a positive aspect of it. What can we do to help the kids? And we'll figure this out because we got usually there's a lot of good team members working together to figure out a problem.
and it's amazing what ingenuity can do. And it's really important that leaders turn to the members of their staff and ask for the good suggestions. I mean, all good ideas do not come from on high.
Yes.
So,
And that's what it makes a good leader. They listen to the people that they're working with, right?
right,
That to
absolutely.
me makes a good leadership example. And we I don't know. I was also looking at your, you have a current book. You also wrote a lot of other books too. Most of them were children's books.
Two of them are children's books, and 15 of them are books for teachers on
Oh,
creativity
that's
and
so awesome.
children's literature, and some of the great lessons of life are found in children's literature. I think Aesop's fable teaches the fables
Right.
teach
That's one
us
of
a
my,
lot.
right. I had a lot of books when I was growing up. I think reading is important to kids, at least for me.
Oh,
Well,
absolutely. And I've been fortunate to be a part of the Dolly Parton Imagination
oh,
Library.
that's awesome.
Um, Worked as an advisor with that group from Tennessee, the Governor's Books from Birth, it's called. So it is that foundation of wanting to read, but it is also what we get from reading, how important it is for us. It's for the children, but the reality, the bond that happens when parents read to their children is immense.
Right. Right. It is just amazing how creativity is, people don't realize how important it is, especially when they're young. Like you said, your your daughter-in-law teaches first grade, and that's a difficult thing because you've got to help them focus more, maybe.
Yes, some of
And
them.
right. And it's I just remember that I appreciated what is it, recess? I don't think they're doing so much recess now.
Oh yeah, they do.
They do,
They
that's
don't
good.
call it, they don't always call it recess, but they still do it. And in fact, the research says if you let children play
Yes.
and play on their own, that they will not only become better at your other lessons, but they will also take in more of the information. But we could talk educational philosophy forever if you'd
Yeah,
like.
no, that's okay.
I have some
But
definite opinions.
right, it's I read that too, that I just remember that even like now at my age, I go running and I have these great ideas because I'm
Right.
in a different environment, or you know what I'm saying. And it just makes, I'm looking, and I'm not one of those people that listens to music when I'm on it. I like to be,
I don't either.
right, I like to be focused on that, what's in front of me in that environment. And I think that's what kids do when they're in recess. And maybe I'm just thinking of my sister because they're middle school, they don't have that really. Maybe that's where they, um, I don't know. It's just a difficult age, seventh grade, 13,
Absolutely. I
very
have a
hormonal.
sixth grade granddaughter, and yes, it is difficult for her. But the whole idea of creativity translated to a leader is also important. So if you have a huge project to do, or even a small project to do, and you have a team of people and they come together and talk about it, they're, you as the person in charge may not be able to approve it because they have such grandiose ideas. But frankly, most of the time, you can take even parts of a good idea and with a good team, make it happen. And you're you are a you're missing the people. Well, I certainly miss the people too. um, and the great part of being a university president was that I had this wonderful array of faculty and students, almost 22,000 students, and all these
Wow.
great faculty members, and I learned from all of the people because I got to engage with them. So I miss that terribly. But someone wrote that I was too much of a people person. And I said, no, you can't be too much of a people person if you're running a university. You have to listen to great professors, you have to listen to donors, you have to be engaged with people. So I consider myself this. Maybe some other leaders can adopt it. I'm people oriented and goal motivated. Those two have to be linked. If you're just people oriented and say, okay, good people, go do whatever you want to, that's not what I mean. It's that you're people oriented because you can't, as the leader, do everything. So how
Right.
are you going to get the project or the goal out there and make it happen?
Right. It is so, I mean, you have to deal, being people oriented, I think is great just because you got to deal with so many different personalities. I mean,
Yes,
and like you said, different, you're dealing with professors and then with students, I'm sure, and then you have administrators and there's so many different, and like you said,
donors and case
right.
officers and and, and residence hall
So I
managers.
think that's a really good trait to have. But then, like you said, you have to have goals to, and that's what I think I have some pretty good goal motivation as well. I have to set them, and one thing that helps me is to say it publicly. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
That makes sense. I'm going to say I'm going to do this, and then I'm like, okay, I have to do this now because I've said it out loud and I've told somebody. That's being a,
absolutely.
and
And
that
if you write it in a publication and you say it and you're the
right,
leader, you better deliver
right, and
because
that's my
there's no
personality too.
excuses.
Right. I want to make sure I deliver what I'm going to say. And sometimes you have to adjust a little bit, but it's, my background, I'm not, but my father that raised me, my mom was married a couple times, but he was a teacher too. So I think I learned
Wonderful.
a lot from him. He was a science teacher. He was in the military. I'm a military brat.
Oh,
So,
wonderful.
all right. So I had a lot of discipline, you can imagine. So, I shouldn't say
But you
that.
also learn to get along with a lot of different people and be the
Yes.
new kid in school and all those kinds of things that you learn from moving all around with the
Correct.
military.
You're absolutely correct. I learned to adjust and adapt to the situation, and I got along with people because I knew I wanted to. I didn't say I wanted to fit in, but I did stand out a little bit in a way. If that makes sense. I think that's okay too.
Oh, yes, it is.
One of my favorite stories as a child, I have to tell you this. We were coloring. We were sharing a table with crayons. You probably, I don't know if it was first grade or kindergarten. And the teacher got on to me because I colored my cow purple. And she said, cows aren't purple. And the reason I did it is because someone else had the brown and the black, right?
Right.
And I said, who said cows can't be purple? And but
Creative, creative.
I
I
was
like
trying to
that.
right because I'm like, okay, at least I didn't take green. I'm just kidding. But I was like, so, and anyway, so I would get called out sometimes for doing that, but I I would stand up for myself. I didn't get in trouble, but I'm like, who said that cow cannot be purple? And that's one of
Right.
my favorite little memories. Um, so
Well, I'm a
let's
strong believer in creativity and encouraging children's creativity. That's why I've written and done so much with it. But creative leaders have some of those same capabilities. They think of alternatives. They think outside the box. They
you
think
have
of a
to
different way of doing it.
you have to
And
come up right with solutions because sometimes you're just gonna have to just like I hope our leaders, I can't really get much input into this COVID, but I'm being um, respectful, right? And I wear a mask in a building, and I don't wear one when I'm outside running on a trail. I couldn't breathe in that, but I'm very respectful, and I think that. I mean, that's just my opinion, and we'll figure out a
it's
way.
mine as well.
Right? You have to be respectful because you don't know um, who someone else is going to be around later, right?
Right. It might
It's
be around my grandchildren. I'd be very upset with you.
right. That's what I'm
So we're
saying.
protecting lots of people.
That's what it is. It's not just right. It's just I think that's one thing we need to focus on too is just being respectful. And we have our differences and just be respectful. I think that is key to moving ahead. And I think that's, as you know, a leadership skill. So let's jump on the into the book, your uncommon journey thing. You said your path. I'm really, I know we kind of jumped into the teaching stuff, but how that happened. I mean, how many years were you a preschool teacher before you moved up? And I'm assuming you had to get a different degree, right?
Well, I was a preschool teacher for just a couple of years,
Okay.
and I moved and was probably one of the jobs I learned the most from was after I got a master's degree, I became a Head Start director for a large metropolitan program that had 13 centers and 300 families. And it was my first really big administrative job where I had to coordinate people and meet deadlines and manage budgets and all those kinds of things. But but it was also a great opportunity to deal with people from different races and
Right.
different, while I came from a poor background and grew up on a farm, did not struggle with having enough food on the table as some of the Head Start families did. So I learned a tremendous amount, but I got a grant to train some teacher aides, and it suddenly dawned on me that I liked teaching adults about children
Oh, yeah.
as much as I did dealing with the children. So I went on to get my doctorate 4 years later to um, to study child development. And I'm talking about something that opens up and you take advantage of it. I studied child development and early childhood education, but the program required you to choose a collateral area, it was called. They
Mm.
had a whole list of things I could choose. I said, oh, heck, I've been organizing things. I'll choose organizational leadership.
Right.
Little did I know the world that was going to open to me, and some of the ways I did things became challenged by professors or other students, and I learned to take in much more data and to figure out ways that I could partnership to get things done out in the community. So I learned a huge amount from an area that I sort of ticked off on a on a box when my real interest was just the child. But the reality is not just the child, that
Right. Right.
the child. And the whole concept of development originates with my belief about children and believing in growth and development. And I would even say I started a large honors program at the University of Memphis. And these honor students who were so brilliant, had so much confidence, were being sent off to this program, receiving great scholarships and everything. And one of the first things I would have to say to them is, I have to convince you that no matter how good you are, you can get better. And that became my philosophy for dealing with very good, outstanding researchers, wonderful teachers, all of these people, and leaders, people who were trying to figure things out, because some of them were very good and they stopped there. And what we
Right.
need is for people to be very good and get better.
Right. That's a really great story, because you don't know, like you said, where it was going to take you. You chose the organizational leadership and learned. I mean, it helped you, right?
Immensely.
Immensely, right? And you just don't know. And it's like being open, like you said, to possibilities and opportunities. And I think you have a great background, and I think that's probably why you've done well in the speaking world. And that's probably not. I don't know how that's affected right now. A lot of it is doing online, right? I don't
It
know.
has to be, well, I had 7 big engagements late spring and summer.
Uh,
They all disappeared
oh,
except for 2 who said, let's do this virtually. And then after another group saw me do something virtually, they said, okay, let's try our organization, our conference virtually. So it's a lot. I have to learn a lot, and frankly, that's a big challenge for me, is not just the virtual, but getting organizations who are interested in my perspective. And I've been fortunate that they've come along, but I want to keep it growing.
right. And right. It's the orgs are trying to, like you said, they're trying to figure out what to do. And I know some of them that I've gone in person to, one of them finally just came back and said they're going to do something online virtually, but only like 5 speakers, right? Rather
Oh,
than, right. I mean, I'm not
the
going to,
25 or so they'd usually
right. And
have.
that's kind of what it is hurting that in that regard, because they don't, I guess they're worried about people's attention span, is that the right word? I can only look at a video for so long.
Right. I've tried to integrate some questions along the way, some chance for people to give feedback,
That's good.
all that kind of thing, but it's still not the same.
Yeah.
I had an organization that had about 90 people who were supposed to show up, but you realize that with the virtual, only the average is only about half of the people who sign up actually show up.
Right.
So I beat the odds a little bit, but not by much.
Right.
So it's hard to know.
Yeah, it's just it's gonna be okay. But I think it will be. We're just gonna adjust, and we have to organize things a little differently. And a lot of them, I'm getting requests, just for me to like be a participant too. There conflicts with a lot of other stuff.
Yes.
It's a lot of conflict out there, and so you have to, as a participant, that's probably why they don't show up. They have to prioritize.
Well, they're working,
Or they're
many of them
working.
are working at home. They
Yeah.
have the same distractions we have at home. They
Right.
also have work requirements.
Right.
So yes, it is difficult. And they say, well, I'll just tune into this for a while. So,
and yeah, it is, and that's kind of, I think, why podcasts, I think, are popular, because you can listen and multitask a little bit. But I share the video and the audio now, but people like that as well. And even though but that could be affected maybe too, I don't know, because not as many people are commuting.
well, well, I think I think podcasts are effective
Yes, I
because
think they are.
people will say, well, I heard you on a podcast, so
Yeah.
I think I want to talk to you more, or why don't you do something for us? But it's knowing what to, as a speaker, it is what to do with all these interviews that you
Right.
had.
It's a
So
lot.
I'm open to suggestions. I want to learn more.
Right. We're all having to adjust, and I just think that like I've said previously, I'm positive it will work out in some way. We're all going to be doing something a little different next year, right?
I assume.
Yeah, or sooner than that, right? And I'm just so thankful that I had the opportunity to be doing this and to talk to someone like you. And I think we met on a online speaker summit. Was that
Yes.
like 6 weeks ago or 2 months ago? I can't remember. See, that's the downside of this. I don't know. To be honest with you.
Well, to stay in touch with people is sometimes difficult when you meet online. How do
Yes.
you stay in touch? But I'll stay in touch with you.
Yes. I think I reached out to you or you reached out to me on LinkedIn. That's what it was. And then
Right.
I looked at your background. I listened to you speaking. I'm like, this is a perfect person for what I'm trying to get out there, the message I'm trying to share. And it's just how it's really about my podcast, as you know, it is about resilience, because we have to be resilient to get through this. And it's about connecting with others. And
Wonderful.
that's really what it is. And that's we learn and progress and adapt everywhere we need to go. And I have one last question for you. Can you tell us where we can find your books, or is it your website?
No, you can find them on Amazon.
Okay.
And then on my website, it also lists other publishers, because some of the books for teachers are on Amazon, but they're also published by Griffin House.
Okay.
And the children's books are on Amazon. I have one on butterflies and one on birds. I'll tell you one more little story to tell you.
Okay, no
I,
problem.
pub, I published these 2 children's books, one on birds and one on butterflies, that grew out of lessons that I was doing as a volunteer in my daughter-in-law's classroom. Well, the Arboretum, which is near us, has all these trails. And so they wanted to do a nature book trail. So they selected my butterfly book, and then they enlarged it into big signs, and
Wow.
they put them on a hillside, and you follow the trail up the hillside with your child, reading about these butterflies and being out in the open. It's the UT Arboretum, the University of Tennessee Arboretum. But
Arboretum. Okay.
isn't that fun that that happened? That's again an opportunity. They came to me. I didn't even imagine that would be an opportunity, but I love that.
I think it's great. And it helps the kid engage better with the book and in the nature. And so this book, is it photos or is
It
it?
has photos. I write, there's a photo of a butterfly, and then there's some information for the teacher about the butterfly that is in very small print that she can use and or
Gotcha.
he can use. And then I have a poem about the butterfly and the stages of life of the
Oh,
butterfly.
wow. That is so
Uh,
cool. I want to go buy
this
them for my nephews.
This is a little postcard I sent to people about the butterflies, but this is the Monarch. So the photos are done by Kurt Hart, who's a nature photographer.
Okay.
So you should look up the Birds book, which is exploring the life cycle, and then the Birds book is really one about discovering North American species. So but the poems are ones that can be read to children, or they can join in, and then at the back I have some activities I call story stretchers um, to do with the children.
That is so cool. And you've definitely motivated me to buy these for my
Good.
nephews, who my nephew has 4 sons. And so they're at that age. They are so, I think they're 2 to 5, 4 kids. Two of
Well,
them.
the children like them even when they're young. They can point out the
Yes, they
different
can.
birds and begin to identify them.
And they like stuff from Aunt Bridget because they're always getting books from me. So
Good.
I just think that is something. I also just sent them a bunch of crayons. They don't know that yet, but coloring books. But I love this conversation that we have, and we do have a lot more in common. You just don't
We
know
do.
until you start having a conversation. And what I'll do for everybody is in the summary, I will have your link to your website and to any other links that Shirley shares with me after the conversation. But again, I do appreciate what you're doing for the world, right? And just, you have to start small though, right? And I think that's what you do.
Right.
Your community, you've done such a good job. And I think that's why you've done so well in your career, and just, I should say career, but just in your life, and you're helping so many people just with
Well,
your,
thank you. And
your leadership.
thanks for the goals of your podcast, because I think they're wonderful.
Well, thank you so much. And I appreciate it again, and have a great day, guys.
Thank